You know, in my video about the state of play, I share my thoughts at length about the new God of War game, but after I've been seeing all the conversation around it, everyone seems to have different thoughts about it, from the media, to the players, to potential customers, to the company themselves, even Domino's Pizza. I just kept thinking, who's this game made for? And I don't mean it in a metaphorical way. I'm seriously asking. Because, well, it's easy to lose track of the real players, real fans, real people that buy these games when you look at the conversations online. Is this game actually made for them? And believe me, it's not because of what you may be thinking. So let's go over it. You know, as someone that's played the original God of War way back when, more than 20 years ago in the PlayStation 2, and absolutely loved it, I played every God of War game since that day, and I've loved every one of them. Some of them I like more than others, some are better than others. But there's always been one main factor through all of them. You see, the original games, before the 2018 iteration, it was made for a very specific audience. Men. And that's not me being sexist, okay? They were made for men. You had a sex minigame, for God's sake. Over-the-top extreme violence. I mean, the first 3 God of War games are some of the most testosterone-infused games ever made. Okay? That is the truth. When God of War 2018 came out, Santa Monica Studios managed to do something that is very difficult to do in the gaming industry. They managed to modernize the God of War franchise for a new audience. It expanded the audience. And it's not to say that they got rid of the violence and the themes of the original, but they gave it a lot more focus into character and story. You see, the original games, 99% of their focus, it's on the combat and the violence. And don't get me wrong, the story is there and the story is good and it has very good moments, but it's not the focus of the game. However, the 2018 game, while it changes the combat system, it is still very good. But the focus now shifts into the characters and the story, way more than in the original. And in my opinion, they did it fantastically. Overall, 2018, I think it's a better game than Ragnarok, but I still love Ragnarok. So they achieved something great. So the new games were loved by old players and new players. God of War Ragnarok was released in 2022. That is 4 years ago. And the other day, as you know, a new God of War game was announced, God of War Laufey. This game stars Kratos' wife, Faye, as she goes through the afterlife after she dies. Now, I did go over at length in my video, and I don't want to reiterate all the points I made. But there is a few things about this approach. And no, I need to clarify this because people on the internet are stupid, and it's not because it's a woman, okay? In fact, if you watch the previous video, I glazed Tomb Raider, so I don't care. It's a woman. It's not the point. You see, the God of War franchise has been, and always been, Kratos. And that's not hyperbole. Kratos is everything for the God of War franchise. He is the franchise. He's the titular character. And it's one of the most loved and recognizable video game characters of all time. And this would be a first for a game of the God of War franchise without Kratos. So that already gives a message to the audience. Because if you love the God of War franchise, you usually love Kratos. If you didn't like the character, you most likely didn't like the God of War games. So, by not having him, a big portion of that audience is gonna tune out. And not because it's a woman. This could happen the same if it was a game about Atreus. Annoying little shit. If you bench Kratos, is it a God of War game? And the creator of the God of War franchise and of Kratos, he chimed in. I mean, he's not very fond of the newer games, mostly, but he said something that was curious. If this didn't have the God of War name, this would be a trailer you would need to be reminded of. And not because it lacks spectacle, I did say it on my previous video. I think the game looks fantastic, and I think the combat seems very fun and very engaging and very fast-paced. The game is probably very good in terms of combat and quality. So, in my opinion, this goes beyond just not having Kratos. You see, this ties to a little bit of a problem with the AAA gaming industry in general. Games like this, they take too long to make. This was announced 4 years after the release of the last one, and it's going to take at the very least one more before we see a release date. I mean, I would be surprised if this game comes out anywhere near halfway 2027. I'm guessing they're aiming late 2027, but maybe early 2028. That would put it 5 or 6 years. This goes beyond the protagonist. I don't have a problem with having spin-off games that explore other characters. If you're going to take between 4 and 6 years to release a new game in the franchise, even a spin-off, people check out. Because you say, oh, we're going to have more games with Kratos. I mean, I sure hope so. But what? If you port everything for 5 years of development to have this game now, we have to wait, what? Another 5 for the next game with Kratos. I said it. I did go over it in my main video, but I think a spin-off like this with a different character, exploring a story parallel to the main story of the North Saga, would be better as a shorter. Okay, we don't know the length of the game, so the game has a very high production value. That is clear to see when you watch the trailer. What would remain in terms of budget will be dependent on how long or how big the scope of the game is. Because if it's a fairly linear, relatively shorter experience, I think it would be much better. However, that leads to another problem. If it is a 20-hour game, tops, it has a good story, its focus is linear, it took you 5 years to make. So what, it's going to take you 8 to make a full-length game like Ragnarok? Because people are going to start asking that question. So if I want to play as Kratos, do I have to wait 13 years for a new game? Again, if you take out Kratos and you're focusing on a side character that, I'm going to be perfectly honest, personally, I didn't care about Faye, but I could understand it could be interesting to know who she actually was, because she clearly planned a lot of things that happened in 2018 especially. And there is another point that I haven't seen people make, and to me, it kind of takes away the hype of a game like this. When you have means to, quote-unquote, bring characters back to life, it kind of cheapens their death. Yeah, she's not alive, she's in the afterlife, but, I mean, she's very much awake and running around at the same time as the games, where she is supposedly dead. It's pretty much like bringing her back to life. It happened with Infinity War. In Infinity War, Gamora gets killed by Thanos in order to get the Soul Stone. However, in Endgame, oh, she's alive. Yeah, she's not her. It's her from a different timeline, but she's alive. In God of War 2018, you don't see Faye, but she's ever present. Throughout the entirety of the game, everything is because of what she asks Kratos to do once she died. She has that gravitas on the game. The second game, she shows up, but she's not as present. Now, the fact that all that time she was somewhere doing stuff kind of cheapens what she asks them to do, and the fact that she's dead. I mean, if you play this one, you're going to replay 2018 and you're going to think, oh yeah, she's alive somewhere, kicking ass. With the talking cube, I'm never letting that go. But I did rant a lot of it in the other video, so I'm not gonna do that here. Although I still think it's stupid. I mean, they did go over why it's not a prequel and they decided to make it this way. And I did say this, hey, I think the idea is great. It's a fantastic idea, having this afterlife where gods from other cultures, you could bring them in. But at the same time, it does cheapen her death. Even if you don't see her death, even if you don't know her at that point, like you haven't seen the character, you haven't heard her talk, from the perspective of Kratos and Atreus, she has that presence throughout the entire game. So if this game was released 2-3 years tops after Ragnarok, and it's a shorter focus experience in a side character, could be Faye, could be Atreus, could be whatever, doesn't matter. But so many years after, It doesn't do a lot to make me interested in the story. Sure, the combat, the graphics, they look amazing, and they could be very well be enough to be worth playing the game. But they've decided to focus these games mainly on story and characters, so if that part you're not interested in, it's a big chunk of the game. I don't think this game is gonna sell nearly as much, and not because of the conversation, and because of normal people. People that play these games in their youth, and now they see this without Kratos, and they're like, am I going to pay 80 euros for a God of War game without the God of War? I don't really want to lean into the how Sony has replaced pretty much every male lead in their games for female leads, which, you know, when it happens once, sure. When it happens often, it becomes a pattern. So it's really becoming very hard to ignore. I also would have problems with it, but Atreus was the most logical thing. The game ends as he leaves. So it's like, hey, the next thing is we could follow him to know what he does. Oh god, the next game is going to be about Atreus. Anyway, either they believe that name recognition will carry the game, because this is the other problem. If it is actually full budget, as God of War 2018 and Ragnarok, Sony's going to expect the numbers that those games did. And I don't see this game doing numbers even close to that. And by the way, I do want to make one thing clear. I'm not saying this is going to be a flop. Okay, I'm not saying this is not going to sell well. In fact, I would be incredibly surprised if this doesn't sell millions within days of release. However, what I mean is that I don't think Sony greenlights a God of War game with a 5 to 6 year development cycle to make a little profit. The biggest issue this game is going to have on release, it's Sony's expectations. Because if they expect a success like the other two, I don't think they're gonna get it. And hopefully, they didn't throw as much money as the other ones. So in reality, was this game made for the fans of the whole franchise? Or was it done for the sake of it? Because they're gonna say that this is the stories we wanted to tell, but you also have to face the reality. Someone, either at PlayStation or at Santa Monica Studios, should know, hey, this game is gonna make less money. If you don't have Kratos, by default, it's gonna make less money. And on top of that, it would depend on how good or bad the game. And believe me, the talking cube is not very reassuring. So either way, we will see. Maybe we play the game and the game is great. Again, I don't think I can get over the cube. But maybe once you're playing it, the suspension of disbelief can sustain itself. I don't know. Either way, I just felt like going over it, because the whole conversation is focusing on the, oh, it's a woman and you're a misogynist because you don't like to play as a woman. And on the other side, oh, they make the character uglier than the actress, which, if you look at them side by side, I understand the point. I mean, but it's not about, but they're not focusing on the core of it. This is a God of War game made for people that don't like God of War. And I know they may sound too black and white, but that is how I feel about it. I don't know how it's going to be received, actually. Because you can look at the trailer and the dislike ratio that it's getting, and they're getting ratioed, but the bottom line is when it's for sale. Because normal people that just buy the game because they played God of War when they were kids, to play it in the night when they have like 1 hour after work, they're not all day online. They maybe watch the trailer once, they don't read the comments, they watch the trailer, they move on, and then they buy the game because it's a God of War game. If those people don't like it, you're screwed. And those people are not leaving the dislike on those videos particularly. But those are the people that you need to convince, and those people play God of War because of Kratos. And when they see Kratos is not there, they're already predisposed to not like it. You could win them back if the game is a masterpiece. I don't know. It's a weird timeline we live in. So let me know in the comments below, what do you think about it? Did you like the reveal? Do you intend to buy the game? Maybe you just, oh, I'll wait and see. Maybe you like the stupid cube. I'm not judging. You can let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching. And as always, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.